Good afternoon. Hey. Well, if you're a student at Anderson Ranch right now, you are probably here for an art experience that will create a shift in your life. Is that happening? All right. And if you're a member of the public, a member of our audience who's come for this very special program, you might be here to find out about that shift as well. Welcome to Anderson Ranch. I'm Nancy Wilhelms, and I am the executive director of this very magical place. Thank you. So today we have a program for you like no other. It's Sacred Arts of Tibet. Over the past 26 years, the Tibetan Buddhist monks of the historic Ganden Shatsi Monastery have been visiting the Aspen Snowmass area. Their monastery is in the same lineage and tradition as that of the Dalai Lama, and the original monastery of 5,000 monks was completely destroyed in 1959 when the Chinese invaded Tibet. The monastery was reestablished in India, in the south of India, by 48 surviving monks. The monastery in exile has continued to preserve the 600-year-old heritage of Tibetan culture and Buddhist traditions that the monks are here to share with us today. Also, they've told me they're here to raise some funds for a dormitory to support the 4,500 monks at the monastery in India that they left behind today. So please welcome Geshe Punso and the Tibetan Buddhist monks.
Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon. And Tashi the Lake. I think no one, okay, some of you know Tashi the Lake. I think it's a really wonderful the place here. I think you all must be really blessed, and you should take every precious opportunity to learn and to grow from there and to keep it with your life, something to help you to realize. Because about art in Buddhist tradition, every art never started out of nowhere. Most of our Tibetan arts were started by the great master, because when they enter into the deepest level of meditation, and when they achieve the realization, is all in the visions of their realization. And whatever they had vision in their realization, they sketch it down, and then that becomes as an art. So that's why, like when we draw any art in Tibetan art, it's all about the realization. And also that is to lead us to realize that state. For example, about the mandala. I think most of you heard about the mandala. Mandala means a celestial universe of one enlightened being. So that means that by drawing that mandala itself is to show the purity of that realization. How beautiful it will be. Even by creating with your visual in this table, you will roughly figure out that if we really achieve that realization, it will be amazing. And at the same time, art is something like sometimes we call like the visualization. Even that small size of, we call the mustard seed. And in the concentration level, that in that size of this mustard seed, you had to find the universe in that size. So that's how the art can be expressed into that microscopic level, at the same time in a universal level, at that size of that mustard seed. And it's all because of the more deeper you go into that, the meditation level, that will really help us. So that's why I think the expressions of the art is to open your heart. make it more big. Because sometimes, like, we create art really beautifully, but at the same time, our inside becomes so small and tiny, and we cannot fit in. So the whole purpose of creating that art is to make your own inner self, to open that and to fit in. That's what we always call make your heart big, open your heart. So we have a saying, if you really meditate and create that art in the visions of your meditation, that will be as huge as universe. So that's why, like, when you meditate, it's like we call the junk. Like if it's a small house or small space, there will be packed, junk will be packed inside that. But if you really have a bigger house, then the same amount of junk will be everywhere, but you cannot feel it. You can see easily. So same thing in the meditation level, that you have to create the huge space in your heart. Then there are so many things inside, but still you cannot feel. So I think this is the whole expressions of like creating art in our Buddhist culture. So even like when you draw, like for example, the statues like of Buddhas, actually in Tibetan is like you have to like in main course to learn this Tibetan art is around 8 to 9 years at least. And then after that, then you are like maybe like if you are fit, what do you call, certified to do the art, then they will see how they will do. But before we do, in one of the things that we learn in our societies, every art or like painting things, we need a transmission. Transmission means the transmission from the lineage master, because this tradition has to go back to the origin, where the Buddha has started around roughly around 2,600 years ago. So it has to go like that, unbroken lineage. So that's why every meditation we do, even the art we learn, even we study also, any Buddhist philosophical books also, we need a transmission and the empowerment from our own lineage master, so that only if we can receive those kind of transmission from your own lineage master, then that art, that whatever you create, that can benefit yourself and others. But if you don't have that lineage and transmission, then even it may be a most beautiful art, but it may not be able to benefit yourself and others. That's the beauty about the art in our tradition. So that's why, like when we just spoke about some of the temples, like in Tibet, they built one of the first temple in Tibet. And that Tibet was built, one of the great Indian master was invited to Tibet, and then the king of Tibet wanted to build one temple. And during the daytime, the human being tried to build this temple, but at nighttime, the evil spirits tried to destroy that temple. They was to destroy, because they don't want to bring the Dharma or the spiritual in the land of Tibet. So they cannot, like, they were so powerful, then eventually that they had to invite one of the great master called Guru Rinpoche. Guru Rinpoche, I think most of you heard maybe, he is the master born from the lotus. We call the Guru Padma Sambhava, the one who was born from the lotus. So finally that this Indian master introduced that, okay, you have to invite this master to Tibet. So then he eventually traveled to Tibet, and then he was the master to subdue the negativities and evil force in the land of Tibet, and spread. And then finally they could able to build this temple. And right now, even you can feel that there's so much energy in that. Because the blessings, because the intention is to bring peace and harmony and prosperity. So even there were evil spirits and evil negative force, that because of this master, they transform into a protector. So that's why right now all the evil spirits become protector to protect. And right now we just spoke about the Tibet lost the country. Actually, sometimes we call it, especially His Holiness the Dalai Lama, always express that it is because of the kindness of Chinese that Tibetans are explored out from the mountain and try to show an example of humanity. Otherwise, if the Chinese didn't invade, I think the Tibetan won't be able to come here and try to share this culture. So it's because of the kindness of Chinese that we explore out. And about territorial thing, about dying or killing, is just a matter of time. With the cycle of evolution, it will change. That's why there's no hatred about that. Instead, maybe we accept that maybe because something we must have done, we call the law of cause and effect, must have done something in one of our life. That's what we had to face to. But it's because of the Chinese that we're exploring out. So right now they're making the ritual offering. So this is called we call the torma. Torma is made of, in Tibet, we made out of roasted barley flour. We roast the barley or wheat, and then we make a flour out of that, and then we mix it with the water and make a dough and make a butter sculptures. And so depending on what kind of the meditation you're doing or the prayers and meditation you're doing, depending on that, these sculptures will change. Some of the butter sculptures we make for the peaceful means, which is just to spread peace and harmony, and in a very compassionate way we build. And some of the butter sculptures we build in a most wrathful way. There's a flame of fire. This is to subdue the evil force of oneself. Because right now, the most wrathful, the reason of why we create this butter sculpture in a very wrathful way is because we have the greatest enemy. And not the external greatest enemy. The enemy we have is within our inside. Our own anger, our own hatred, our own greed, our own jealousy, our own pride. These are the greatest enemy, and these are really wrathful. So in order to subdue those kind of enemy, that we create the most wrathful, the image of butter sculptures, and then with these we manifest our own meditational deity. Like some of the meditational deities are very wrathful, because sometimes people in the West often misunderstand about there's some kind of erotic image of the god and goddesses. Actually, this is not like showing that these are the inner way of expressing. It shows about our own inner feeling about like our own anger. Because in the highest level of practices, you are using your fire to overcome fire. You are using your desire to overcome desire. That's why like some of the images of the Tankas of God are so wrathful. This is to express that how to subdue one's own inner enemy. So that's why these butter sculptures, which is three triangle, which is like to show the wrathful means of her deity. And some of them maybe soon they will show the compassionate means. And some of them we make a ritual offering for the divine beings. So all this is not like anyone can create. There's only pattern. And this pattern is not like created by like some of the master or something who has achieved the realization. They have their clear vision in their meditation, and that's why it is created like that. So that's why every art has based on the person who has achieved the realization, and on that vision they have written down, and then we follow that way. Because the reason is because we are still ordinary being. I don't have that realization, and I don't know how to make prayers and how to connect with the divine being. So that's why I have to follow that who has achieved the highest realization and who has the true vision of that in their meditation. And based on that, if we can follow, then it is easier because there's a connection, very strong and powerful connection to apply into your daily meditation and to achieve the realization. So this is the whole purpose that we create these butter sculptures and for example, the statues or the tankas that we create. So these are all to help us to apply into our daily practice. So this is what we do. And like in a monastery, like after creating this one is very small, of course, but in monastery, it's at least once in a year we build around 8 feet tall. And there will be mostly five offering. And they design, and there will be like at least 10 of the monk, or they will work for almost a week, more than a week, to do these sculptures. And then they do, at least we do at least like 7 or 8 days of prayers. And at the end, then you will see that there's hundreds and hundreds of lay people, and the monk will make a prayers together in a big ground. They will be like displayed in the altar, and everyone will pay respect and make prayers, and then to receive blessings after doing prayers of like a week or two. So this is how like the Buddha sculptures are created in our society. Huh? Okay, do you have any question or any questions? Yes.
Why did you choose butter to sculpt with?
Well, in Tibet, the most convenient is a butter. We have lots of butter, lots of cheese, lots of milk, and the butter is we use this butter like a cloth, it's like you're wearing making a beautiful thing, and with the butter is to like a clothes we call the divine clothes. And the design is like butter sculpture is like making like flowers, beautiful flowers with the butter. In Tibet, after this making prayers, then we eat. We cook food, or we dry it, or sometimes we offer to the birds and animals, and sometimes most of it we eat. Yes, please.
Forgive me if you already covered this, because I missed the beginning, but I'm curious what happens to the butter sculpture at the end, after your prayers and your...
Yeah, after the prayers, like we mostly eat or we offer to the animals, because this one I don't think so, because it's not cooked. But in Tibet, it's a roasted barley flour. So in Tibet, the only food is this, we call the tsampa. We roast the barley or wheat, and then we make a flour. And then after that, you make a dough with the tea, Tibetan tea, we call the salted butter tea. And then we eat. That's food in Tibet. Like a cone. This is called the food offering. The food offering for the divine beings. Yeah. And these are only like, because who can, only a big monastery we create. If some of them, like who are doing meditation, like some that they hardly have anything, they will make offering. The highest offering is we call the water offering. The water offering. Because though if we can afford, then we can make butter sculptures like that, and we make beautiful butter sculptures to make prayers. But when you are living in highest mountain yourself, you have nothing, then you make a water offering. And when we want to make prayers and to make an offering, actually the highest offering is we call the water offering. Because when we make a water offering, there's no grasping. There's no such thing called, oh, it's beautiful. There's no attachment, no grasping. It's pure as water. Have no attachment. But when we make this kind of butter sculptures, beautiful, then some kind of grasping, oh, so beautiful, our desire grows. And sometimes even when we make a gold or silver offering, there's some kind of attachment behind that, and pride. But when we make a water offering, as clear as water, there's no attachment, so pure. So sometimes if you want to make offering to the divine being, make a water offering. That's why even, yes, please.
Can you talk a little bit more about, you said it takes 9 years of training, 8
Yeah.
to 9 years to be able to do this.
Yes. Okay. See, in a Tibetan art, we cannot just draw with this like a brush and just paint like this. Every angle has a measurement. Like even to make a head of the Buddha, for example, there's a measurement. Everything has to go like this size is the size of this one. So this one, this size, it goes with the measurement. It has to go with the accurate measurement and even the angle. Some of the divine beings or gods are like relaxing position. Even that one also has a measurement that how much you have to go and make an angle. So that's why to draw that one and to sketch one, you have to specialize about what are the measurements that I have to use. I learned long time ago, around 40 years ago. It was quite hard because you have to draw with every angle, like this go like three line. So this way, when you draw, like it has go exactly with the lips and nose, it goes directly like this. You draw a line. Because that shows when you draw the divine image, they shows the perfections of body. There's no handicap or retarded or such thing. They have the perfections of body. So that's why it has to be perfection. It has to be perfect. This is the reason that when we draw in a Tibetan art, if you draw in the wrong way, there's a danger that you are trying to make a false of that divine being. It's not a good imprint, because when you create even the mandala also, it has every measurement there. If you try to make a different way, that means like you're trying to build without any proper foundation or something like that. So that's why like it needs every details. And every detail when we draw, that we need to have a transmission from your master. You have to, master will see and check everything. Because it's like there are hundreds of deities, hundreds of enlightened beings. Some are very wrathful, some are very compassionate, someone has 1,000 arms or 1,000 head, and 11, what they call, like 4 face, so many there. So depending on that, they have to draw according to whatever the measurement is written down there. So there's a full text. Actually, we have to memorize all the text. Even the color combination also, we have to memorize the text about combinations of the color. So they have to recite and they memorize all the text. Yes. Cybermonk.
They've given me a microphone. This is dangerous. Continuing on that vein, in a somewhat complex situation, but appropriate to we are here in a art-making community. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to oversimplify, but for the Western mind, so much emphasis is placed on my expression, me. I want to be creative. My art is about me. Mm-hmm. I don't have to study anything. I just express.
Yeah,
I just make a mess of it.
That's
What would you say as a Tibetan art practitioner to the path that we are on as Western art makers?
Well, that one I really realized that. See, in one way, like I think it's a good way to express your own inner feeling by art. in one way. But it's a free art. Maybe it's good, for individual to express what you feel from your heart. But if you're really trying to create something connected with your inner divine, right? Inner divine, it has to go with the perfection. Because if we are not perfect and just expressing from our heart, I think I don't encourage to do that. But if any other regular art, like expression from your heart and you create it, I think it's perfect. But if you try to create something that is pure and divine, I don't think no one will draw the expressions of divine in a very dark color. It's a brightness. That's because even just rough expressions of the divine, in energy is brilliant. We don't want to draw in a very dark room and thinking that this is the light of divine being. So this is what, like, when we create in our societies, like, one thing, first of all, the way the Western thing and the way we Tibetan thing, I think is quite opposite. Because in our society, we never promote ourselves. We never even dare to say, I'm Geshe Phunso. Oh, I'm just a tiny monk. In our society, it shows our ego. When we express ourselves, I'm me, I did it, this shows my own ego is so strong, and it shoots up. So we have an example in the Tibetan society is when you are really qualified, when you are really realized, then it becomes like a tree with full of fruits. When the tree has full of fruits, how it will look? It will bend. It will bend means humble. You don't want to disturb anyone, even by knowingly or accidentally also. You don't want to harm others. You don't want to disturb. You become more tiny. So that means it shows about the humble, polite, compassion, and there's hundreds of fruits of realization. But if you don't have that quality of realization and that knowledge, then we become the tree without any fruit. When the tree without any fruit will shoot each other higher than like this. So this is what in Tibetan societies, people will praise, people will raise you, okay, this is really qualified, this is great, this person has a knowledge, but we will never express that I have this, I have that.
Would a Tibetan artist ever sign his name to a work of art?
No. Yeah.
So, sorry.
It's unconditional when you do art. Like that's what we leave it to the public people, and they will try to praise that. Okay, this is the master that has done, but they will never write that this is me. I have written this. Never. That's yes, please.
One thing in a class that we have here this week, a photography class, and one of the things that we've talked about, it's an art form that requires us to see what's around us. And one thing we've been talking about is developing our own awareness so that we can receive and be aware of things without judging them. So instead of saying, that's a chair, so I know what a chair is just to look and notice that form and see what it is without judging it, without putting it in a category. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you could talk about, from a Tibetan Buddhist perspective, in terms of just being aware of our surroundings and the world around us, how we get out of putting our preconceptions, our judgments on things, and just experiencing them.
I think I met one lady about, she is a famous photographer, and she is taking every pictures around and try to show what you feel from that person or the environment. So I was trying to make a joke with her, like, well, if you have enough money, then okay, you express whatever you like and then lay it out. But if you are a profession, like you want to make money out of that, then you cannot show the weaker part of that person or that environment. You have to show the beauteous part. But sometimes the photographer have, like, sometimes they really want to express everything, what is inside, even the weaker side also, negative side also, positive side also. So for the, if person has enough money, then you can show everything positive and negative of every environment or every living being. But if you're living on that, I think we have tried to show the positive, because only by knowing the positive state of that individual being and environment, then there's a possibility to grow from there and appreciate and rejoice and promote the value and try to minimize the weaker side of an individual being. I think this is what the creating the art of photography, I think this is what it looks like for me. It is very important. Yes, every person, if you want to show the weaker side of any being, everyone has a weakness. But weakness, sometimes, if you try to reveal, like people have one's own principle and maybe ego that we can call. We don't want to show that. So if you can, instead of that, maybe hiding in hiding and try to reveal the quality of that person, so that at least from that quality, then they can grow and be a better person. I think that's what I feel, I think, from our own point of view. You know, I don't know what is your proper question, but what I feel is like that.
Okay. Okay, related to that, sometimes when an artist, it could be a photographer, but when an artist shows something that might be negative in the world, it's not because it can be coming from a place of love. It can be coming from a place where we want to show humanity what's going on, and try to have help those people or things like that. So,
yeah, I'm talking about the business level.
well, I'm not.
But if you are talking about the general level to express, I think that's excellent. Because sometimes when we have to survive on that profession, then that's the only reason. But if we want to express in your heart to promote, I think that's the best.
Yeah, but the images, the Tibetan images and the mandala and all that, I would consider those to be sacred art.
Yes.
Right, and
Yes.
a lot of religions in the world have that.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's true. Right now, we call the time has degenerated. At the same time, like secret. Yes, in one way, if we are practicing secretly, that's excellent. But at the same time, like just practicing secretly and not sharing with others, this culture will die. So this is the only reason that we're trying to share the secret, so that at least if you know the true meaning of what the secret means, you will also respect that and value that and try to apply. That's the reason of revealing the secret, because in those times people are more sincere and they can practice. But these days, people don't have that time. So this is the reason, the reason even His Holiness the Dalai Lama, goes out in every part of the world and try to share the value. This is the reason, actually.
So you might be speaking, what about the destruction in Tibet? Making pictures of the destruction in Tibet might educate people. Even though it shows the negative side of the Chinese, it still might bring awareness to the world. Are you suggesting that? Are you suggesting that?
Excuse me? I can't.
I said, so like taking a photo of the destruction in Tibet, might reveal to the rest of the world what is really happening in Tibet. So it'd be a negative thing.
No, I was thinking that the microphone drifted away. I think it's really, really so important that people know about. I wasn't suggesting anything. I wasn't trying to to express any negativity again. But I think it's really important in our universe that everyone knows about what happened in Tibet. Of course, I would never suggest otherwise. Okay. Any comments here?
Yes, please.
I'm curious about the sculptures that are being created. They're of the butter art, and do they have to be? Does anything have to happen to them? What will happen to them if you took them outside in the heat? Would
It will melt.
Okay.
Because in Tibet it's so cold. You don't even need icy water. Here you need icy water. In Tibet, like even when we make a water offering, there's only 7 balls. We pour from the left to right. By the time when you reach the last, it will freeze. Already it's ice.
Thank you.
Gishi Punsho,
Yes,
could
please.
you tell us what is the day like in your life at the monastery?
Monastic life, see, there are different level of monks. A younger monk, and then a junior monk, and the senior monk. The youngest monk is around like 4 years old, and they have to study until 16. That they have to memorize all the texts that we have to study. We have lots of Buddhist philosophical texts, and then prayers and meditations and learning handwriting and grammar. They have to study until 16, and then after 16, then we study our main course. And in our main course, there are 5 texts. And then the 5 texts, the first one is called the Logic and Reason. Logic and Reason, and we study 5 years. And the second one is called the Sixth Perfection. We study 5 years. Third one is called the Entrance to Middle Way, which is about the emptiness. Everything is interdependent and it doesn't exist of its own. There we study 3 years. And then we study about the treasure of knowledge. We call the cosmology, physiology, or metaphysiology. We study another 2 years. And then the last one, we study monastic discipline, what the monks' rules and vows means. So we study another 2 years. So to complete this text, it takes at least 18 years, at least. And then, so after that, completing these 5 major texts, then we have to again continuously do an examination for 7 years, repeatedly, to get the Doctor of Philosophy, we call the Geshe degree. So, and then now the monastic rule, like most of us has to wake up before 6, and 6 to 8 that we have to assemble in the main hall to do prayers together, and breakfast will be served there. And from the 16 to those who are studying the Buddhist philosophy, then from 8 to like 10:30 or 11, there we debate. Debating in every teaching that we have received from our master. This is like we analyze every teachings that we have received from your teacher, and we debate. And then lunch will be served around 11. And then from 11 or 12, like most of the monks try to take nap because it's very hot. So that's why it's a saying, only Englishman and mad dog walk on the sunny side or something. That's why it's very hot in daytime. So most of the monks take nap. Only the younger monk, they just busy playing. And then afternoon, after 2 or 1:30, that we will go in individual master to receive a teaching. At least 4 classes will take, maybe sometimes three classes. And then dinner will be served at 5 with the soup or lentil or noodles sometime. And then around 6, again the debate starts Debate starts, and 10:30 is compulsory that we have to debate. And after debating, then like most monk will come back to their own room around 11, and then we will try to do study or revision that what we have debated, and then we have to do our own memorizations, and then we have to do our own daily prayers. So the normal time to go to bed is after 12. So this is 6 days a week, and mostly that we study that way. So this is what the daily routines for the monk. But the younger monk, until 16, wake up the same, and then they go to bed before 10, younger monk. So, yes, please.
What is the purpose of debating?
Purpose of debating is we call the meditation. There are two kind of meditation. One is called the post-meditation, and one is called the analytical meditation. So debating in every topic that you receive teaching, you debate and try to meditate and try to find the deepest level of that meaning from the topic. And also to check that whether whatever the Buddha said or whatever the great master has said really makes sense or not. Whether it really helped you to transform to be a better person or not. So we check every detail about the topic of teachings that we receive. That's the reason, actually. Yes, please.
I wanted to have you talk about the symbolisms that are in the butter sculpture. Yeah.
These are the flowers. See, this is called the Dukchuma. 60 different kind of offering that we do in this. The prayers to clear the obstacles and negativities. Then we make this offering in a wrathful way to subdue the negativities, to receive a blessings. And this is the food offering. That's why it shows the flame of fire. Fire, that means it's a blazing fire to burn away all negativities. And this is the food offering. This is, we call the divine food offering. So whenever we want to make prayers, that we had to make this food offering sculptures to offer to all the divine beings. And this one is especially for the wrathful deities. And this one right now we didn't color. Actually, this dough has to be painted with a reddish color. It's like a blood. The reddish color is a flame of blood, and then like you're offering the most wrathful things to the divine being to subdue the most evil force and negativities. Yes.
How do you color the butter?
Butter?
Yeah, how do you color it?
Color, this we use with a different kind of natural color. Mix with the butter and then make a color. Yes, please.
So it sounds like a lot of studying in your daily life. What about like the daily jobs, the cooking, cleaning, building things, and when does all that happen?
Yeah, actually, especially in Buddhist philosophy, in the monastery, one lifetime is not enough to complete study. You'd have to take life after life to study. That's why in Buddha's teaching, there are 84,000 volumes of teaching. 84,000 volumes means one lifetime is not enough to complete. Now the rules, in monastic rule, everything is worked by a monk. Cooking, there are at least like 50 cooks. Monk will take takes turn and cook. So every monk know how to cook food in a very mass way. So, and then about in the canteen, we have a canteen. It's run by a monk, and all the whoever eat, all monk. And we have a farm, and we have cattle, and everyone is taken care by a monk. And nowadays, I think it's like maybe the monks also not much realize. In those time, like in India, when because some monk has to be in charge of the cattle. So there's a story that he used to send all his cattle to the forest and just leave it like that, and even never bring it back home, just freely, grazing around the ground. But he could, bring the milk in time and give it to the monastery every time. That's the milk. So everyone were wondering because he never see the cow around the cattle there in the monastery, but he can still bring the enough milk for the monastery. They finally found out that he draw a big cow on the wall and milk from that and give it to the yeah. Yes.
Do the younger monks make the food offerings?
Yes, some monk are. See, there are like who already has an imprint from the past. If they are reborn again, these monks, most of them, they are very easy. They know very easily. Like one of the youngest monk, he was around 2.5 years old. The moment he can speak, he never wanted to live with the parent. He wanted to go to the monastery and live with the sinner monks there. So he even the sinner monks in one of the monastery also have no choice because this young boy want to stay with him and live with him. So he has to take this young 2.5 years or 3 years old young boy. And then after some time, like there's one king came to that area. And then since he is the senior-most monk in that monastery, so he has the privilege to visit and pay respect to the king directly. So he took this young monk with him. And at that time, the first time that he spoke the national language to the king, he said, "I am the king of Bhutan," something. And he was the king, and we call like a Dalai Lama. He is the spiritual king and the leader of Bhutan at that time. And he was the king in 1627. So almost 300 years or 400 years ago, he was the king and the spiritual master of that country. And he declared himself as a young boy. And no one can disprove him because he has every evidence to prove that he is a king. And he is a master, actually. That's why he's still young right now.
Hi. What is the role of women?
Role of women? Well, if you become wear like this, you become nun. So nun also same monastic rule, and they also study. Actually, now the numbers of nuns are growing bigger and bigger. It's really good. It's a good sign. And yeah, they study the same, though they have more rules, but nuns also study same Buddhist philosophy.
I'm looking over at the artwork over there, and there's a pattern on 2 of the pieces. Is that a religious symbol?
Which one?
Right there.
Oh, yeah. This is, okay.
What is the meaning of that?
Actually, there are 8 auspicious signs. This is one of the 2. 8 auspicious signs, and this is called the victorious banner. That means if you want to benefit every living beings and environment, you must need the position of this 8 auspicious sign. So these 2 victorious banner means you have to be victory over all the evil. You must be victory. So only then you can be able to benefit others. And then it's called the never-ending knot. That means your connection with every living being shouldn't be just, okay, I'm enough, I'm done for them, or no such thing. It has to need a continuity to benefit others, never-ending knot. So that's why one of these 2 from the 8 auspicious sign. And it's something apply for the relationship also, to bring good relationship. Yes, please.
I'm curious about what you said about meditation a while back regarding thinking about something in its deepest form.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding from the instruction I've been given on meditation in the past has been its purpose is to clear your mind and not to think about anything. Could you speak a little bit more on the difference between those, I guess, 2 different types of meditation?
Okay, one's called post-meditation, Pose means you sit and focus into one object and stay there without distracted by other consciousness or images or hearing or so. And the other one is you analyze. Like, for example, if you want to meditate on like compassion. Compassion means you cannot just focus there and just visualize. You have to analyze what compassion means, right? Compassion means you wish everyone to be happy or to overcome from their suffering, and you visualize every suffering of every individual beings and how to overcome. So you analyze, your consciousness or wisdom is analyzing every details about that topic and try to prove, okay, this is the reason that I have to practice compassion. Because compassion doesn't mean, okay, I want to practice compassion and just meditate like that. It won't happen. You must have a reason to practice compassion. Why? So now you need, first of all, what's the reason now, right? And even if you want to meditate on emptiness, emptiness is you cannot just set the object there and meditate. Emptiness means you have to analyze. Like, for example, if I practice emptiness on myself, you split my leather or apart, bones apart, fluid apart, organs apart. So that's how you try to break down into pieces. It's laying on the ground and try to point out which one is me. That's how you have to analyze. So this way. And now about the meditation. There's a saying that if you can meditate, especially for the young generation, that if the young generation can meditate 10 minutes a day, then this person will never get a depression in their life. The more we lack meditating in our life, that person will face lots of challenges, anxiety, fear, insecuritiness, and our is so narrow inside. So by meditating is spacing, making huge space within your own mental continuum, and make it more easy to accept. That's why even the neurologists also, they found out that those who meditate, their capacity to hold even the disturbance is so huge, they can easily accept and just let it go very easily. But the one who lack this meditation, then it's so difficult to tolerate, accept that, and also to let it go. One, it is inside, then we hold into that, and it's so hard to let it go. This is because of the lack of meditation. So meditation is it's like common sense. For example, if we lack meditation, is something happened in your life, like maybe accidentally something killed, or maybe you did some big mistake, and it's like a bottle of water. If you hold this one for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I can hold. But after half an hour, this is heavy then, right? I cannot hold this one. It become more heavy. So even this is become more heavier, even empty hand also. I cannot hold like this for half an hour. It became heavy. So the same thing that happened in our life, and we hold it inside for years and years, that become more heavy. And it's not letting go. Instead of holding and thinking day and night and become more heavy, that become really a depression and fear, insecuritiness. So the purpose of meditation is leave every stuff outside and try to be free, calm. Move every stuff out. And even the stuff out, make it more space. And try to be spacious. So that's why it become more light. And what has happened, let it go and grow from there. That's the whole purpose of meditation.
Kishiponsa, thank
Yes.
you. Let's take one more question.
Okay.
But then I want to say that he and his traveling companions will be here to answer your questions if you want to come out afterward. And they have some artwork that they will share and sell as well. So,
Okay, one question?
One more question?
I would like to know who takes care of the younger monks and what happens when anybody gets sick at the monastery.
Well, if see, yeah, why not? Yeah. See, this is what like sometimes we always try to explain, especially a parent who try to complain that, oh, I have so much work to do, I have to take care of my kids, it's so difficult, blah, 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 all this, you know. Yes, I understand. But think about ourselves, for example. We take, the youngest monk is around 3 and 4 years old, and we take like around 5 monks at a time, for example, if I take. And then I will be their parent, their teacher, their guidance, their servant, everything. And then when they grow around, like after 2 or 3 years later, another group will come. And same thing go on continuously until I die. But I am still, like, I have the enthusiasm, I have this spirit to raise this young generation in a very proper manner. And I never want to give up. And believe me, they are all boy, you know. They have 100 times more energy. But still, like, we have so much spirit. It's like when you have that spirit within yourself to, okay, I want this young generation to raise in a very proper way, want to make a true man in their life. So that's why we think in a very long vision and try to raise. Even some of them, they may not make it because of their individual, karmic imprints. Sometimes they disrobe, sometimes they don't want. But as long as with that education, wherever they go, they will appreciate and value their life. That's what we always count. So yes, it's a tough job. It's actually more tough because once they're around 18 or 20, your responsibility finish. But our responsibility never finish. But yes, monk gets sick, and yes, because we are also human beings. Doesn't mean that when you wear monk means you're Buddha. We are ordinary person. That's why we are trying to, learn and grow. And the only difference between you and me is I have more time to do good thing than you all. Rest is same. Yes, I have more time to do good thing. That's why I feel tired of doing good thing. It's great. So we have to go to doctor sometime, and we have a local doctor nearby our town. And yes, for us, the medications are very expensive, but compared to America, it's nothing. Yeah, actually. But for us, it's very expensive. Like recently, like in Miami, that they were discussing about the operation. In our monastery, one of the heart operation, opening your heart and the bypass surgery, is $2,000. Everything. Yeah. And then they're really perfect. They're really doing good. And they're taking out, mostly monks suffer from tuberculosis. Tuberculosis because of the lack of the protein in the food, because we get same kind of food, and most monks hardly get protein, so we get tuberculosis. And plus the problem is, monks come from the highest elevation. This Aspen elevation is nothing. Yeah, nothing. We come from a highest elevation and come down to the sea level, the heat, cold, such a cold country, dropping down to such a hot climate with less protein. That's the reason that monks get sick. And then the water, because we all have to get underground water. There's lots of lime or calcium, so we get stones in the gallbladder also. That's why. Yes, please.
Vegetarian?
No.
No.
See,
Could you
monks,
explain that?
especially Buddhist monk, Tibetan Buddhist monk, why the Tibetan Buddhist monk are not vegetarian? It's obviously, we live the highest mountain is 13,000 or 14,000. We don't grow grass there. So this is for survival, so yeah, that's why.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad you have time to do good things. Yes, thank you for doing a good thing today.
Thank you.